His minutes per goal involvement, that's better than Sesko marginally. Šeško better when it comes to minutes per goal. And look at the XG there. His conversion rate is significantly better than Ollie Watkins over the course of the last 2 seasons. Those are the 2 seasons he's been at RB Leipzig. So a plus 9.5 XG means he's scored nearly 10 goals more than you'd expect based on the chances that have been created for him and the shots he's taken. That's Watkins, who scored 3 more than we'd expect. But he's still got a very healthy conversion rate. Last season, Manchester United's number 9 scored 4 goals in 32 Premier League matches in the form of Rasmus Højlund. I don't think you can blame him entirely. Still a young striker finding his way. But if United can do a deal for a striker, I think most United fans probably feel they need to sign a striker in this transfer window. Though Rasmus Højlund did look quite encouraging the other night against West Ham. There is definitely a player there. The question is, do United go for the finished product in Ollie Watkins? 30 years of age, if it costs between 40 and 60 million pounds, there's no resale value there whatsoever. Šeško, 22, still yet to hit the heights yet, but the ceiling is there. It's enormous. He's going to be one of the best strikers in Europe. Can United get him in this transfer window? They've got a number of number 10s now, haven't they? Now they've got Mbumo and Cunha. They need someone to finish off the chances. So if they can get a striker in this transfer window, you'd think it boosts their chances of doing something good this season.
He does sound like a really exciting talent, been dubbed the next Erling Haaland as well. OK, so those are the incomings. As for outgoings at United, Luke Shaw has suggested that there are no longer any stragglers in the squad as a result of Ruben Amorim's tough approach. Well, Amorim left some big names out of the club's pre-season tour, didn't he? Alejandro Garnacho, Antony, Jadon Sancho, and Tyrell Malacia as well. Malacia, I should say. Or they all stayed at home, while Marcus Rashford has, of course, gone on loan to Barcelona. Let's hear from him.
There's no stragglers in this group anymore. I think everyone has to put the team first. He's made that very clear. I think, you know, he's picking players on how he feels will be best for the team, and that's, you know, his choice. And, you know, us as players, we're fully behind him and fully behind on his ideas and what he wants to implement in his team.
Yeah, I think that's a good insight, isn't it, James? Will we see any more departures then from Old Trafford anytime soon? Because they've got players they want to get off their books. Yeah,
I thought it was fascinating hearing from Luke Shaw there. I think he was talking about stragglers in terms of a mentality shift rather than pointing out the players who are not there right now with United on this pre-season tour. Because we know there's 4 players who are training away from the first team, aren't there in the US right now. Alejandro Garnacho, Antony, Jadon Sancho and Tyrell Malacia. Ruben Amorim suggested last week that none of the players would be sold for a cut price fee and they would be reintegrated if they're not sold. I'm not so sure that's the case. Maybe that was a negotiating strategy from Amorim. I think Garnacho is absolutely key here because any money United make on Garnacho in this transfer window will represent pure profit, which will give them a huge amount more flexibility in this transfer window. Now, Aston Villa, they've been keen on him, but are understood to be unable to meet the asking price to buy him outright at this moment in time. Chelsea still maintaining an interest despite the fact they signed Jamie Gittins earlier on this summer, but it remains to be seen if they act upon that. Borussia Dortmund are interested in re-signing Jadon Sancho once again. This would be the 3rd time they've signed him, but I think wages are going to be an issue here. Juventus have also held talks. Napoli may now revisit the chance to sign Jadon Sancho, having missed out on their first choice wide option. He's heading to Nottingham Forest. More on him later in the show. As for Antony, actually, I think he helped his market value somewhat at Real Betis last season. They reached the Conference League final and Real Betis would like to bring him back, ideally this season. The issue is, I think they feel like a loan is more feasible. That's what their president has been quoted as saying. It is a case with all these players. United would love to do a permanent deal. They'd love to just get rid of these players in a polite way now because of the wages they're on, because of the amount of money that's been spent on them. If there's a permanent way of getting rid of these players, that would be ideal. If not, you'd be looking at loans with a permanent element attached to that.
Okay. I would just say, like, just explaining there, that the priority for United is to offload these players and to ideally get them on a permanent deal. And we thought that was before they could go back into the market. Now, sequence-wise, that's not necessarily the case. Manchester United, it's all about timing. If, for example, we've been talking about Benjamin Šeško, if that deal presents itself at some point in the next week or so, and they haven't sold any of these players before then, United will still feel that they can do that deal, but they will need some sort of assurance that somewhere along the line, some of these players are going to get sold. It doesn't have to be, well, I know you want to come now, Benjamin, but you're going to have to wait because we need to get rid of these players. It's a timing situation. It's a little bit like when Arsenal fans were complaining when they were actually signing players earlier on in this transfer window. Yes, Zubimendi's great. Yeah, Norgard, that's a good signing. But why aren't we signing a striker? Well, sometimes it's the timing. So Manchester United, ideally, yes, make the sales to bring in. Ideally, yeah, but it doesn't necessarily have to go in that order.
Okay. Patience, Manchester United fans.
Welcome back to Sport Lab, your home for daily football updates. Let's dive into today's top transfer stories, with major moves across the Premier League and Europe. Luis Diaz to Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich have completed the signing of Luis Diaz from Liverpool in a deal worth around £65 million. The Colombian winger leaves Anfield after 2.5 seasons, with Bayern continuing to rebuild under Vincent Kompany. Isak's future uncertain amid Liverpool interest. Newcastle boss Eddie Howe admits Alexander Isak's future isn't fully in his control, although he hopes to keep the striker. Liverpool made an informal approach for Isak before moving for Hugo Ekitike, but the Swede remains high on their wish list. Meanwhile, RB Leipzig are reportedly using the Ekitike deal as a benchmark as they prepare for talks with Newcastle over Benjamin Šeško. Chelsea make moves, Hato in, Felix out. Chelsea are closing in on Ajax centre-back Jorel Hato, with a deal believed to be worth over £40 million. On the outgoing side, João Felix has joined Al Nassr in the Saudi Pro League, in a deal that could rise to £43.7 million. It's another high-profile exit as Chelsea reshape their squad. Ramsdale to Newcastle. Aaron Ramsdale is set to complete his move to Newcastle United, after the Magpies reached an agreement with Southampton for a season-long loan with an option to buy. The England international is due for a medical and could soon compete for the number 1 shirt at St. James Park. Sancho to return to Dortmund. Finally, Borussia Dortmund are exploring a deal to re-sign Jadon Sancho from Manchester United. Sancho impressed during his loan spell last season, and Dortmund are now in internal talks over bringing him back permanently. Juventus and clubs in Saudi Arabia are also monitoring the situation. That's all for today's transfer update. Which move surprises you most, Diaz to Bayern, or Chelsea cashing in on Felix? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned to Sport Lab for all the latest football news. We'll see you next time.